All right, and welcome back to another segment of Pellet Tech 101. Got the Davy Crockett here, and I'm basically going to show you guys how to replace the combustion fan, so the blower fan that's actually giving air to the fire. In the event that that blower fails or we need to replace that, I'm going to go and show you the process on how we do that. So first off, a few basic tools here that I need. We have a 10 millimeter, so this T-wrench actually comes with the new Davy Crockett's, but if you don't have this and you need one, 10 millimeter is going to be really helpful. It's like the bolts that hold on the hopper, also the shield that's underneath. I have a needle nose pliers, I have a regular pliers, and then I have a small precision Phillips. This is a #1 Phillips. The key though is the length of this shaft. I actually had to specifically pick this up from a hardware store as the bolts that hold on the combustion blower have to go through a small hole, and you need some kind of a Phillips like this that has a very thin, long shaft to be able to replace that correctly. So key tool, kind of a specialty tool that you're going to need to replace the combustion fan. So as we get started here, I'm going to fold down this leg. It is really helpful to have the grill up on a cart like this. Definitely makes a difference in how easy it is to be able to service. So we have 4 bolts that are holding the hopper, our fuel hopper, on the grill. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull those out. As we look at the bottom one, I kind of have to raise the leg up a little bit to be able to access this. Go ahead and leave that leg down. I'll grab the 2 on the other side real quick. And make sure that you don't lose the washers that are with those bolts. And there's going to be water. Make sure that you keep those. We've got all of our bolts out. So the hopper itself is now loose. Now, my personal suggestion is that the control board is removed prior to pulling off the hopper. It just makes things that much easier when you pull this off, because we do have some restriction with the length of that wire harness. So if I remove the control board first, it allows me a little bit more flexibility and freedom when I pull this off to be able to unhook the remaining wires that are in here. I'm going to show you how to do it without removing the control board first. However, it is a helpful tip to remove your control board prior to pulling off the hopper. We do have a video up on our channel with replacement of this control board. So if you need assistance in pulling this control board off properly, just search our channel. You'll see that video and that'll be helpful for you. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and pull the hopper off. So I'm just wiggling it a little bit. Just back and forth. I can use a little handle up here. Now, as that starts to pull off like this, I want to be really careful, because again, the wire harnesses and things that are in here are going to kind of restrict. So just about here, I'm already kind of at my limit with how far I can pull this hopper off before I disconnect the wire harness from the control board and the thermal sensor from the control board. So I know that you can't see this on camera, but basically what I'm doing is I'm pulling off a little clip for the thermal sensor, and then I am wiggling off the Molex that goes on the board. Now we have a little bit more room with our hopper here. Our remaining connections are for the 12-volt power, so we have 1 spade, which I just wiggle and pull off, and then we have 1 bullet connector that pulls off. Now our hopper is fully off the grill. So this is essentially going to kind of expose our auger feed system, our combustion blower underneath here, our auger motor, This is our igniter that's running back. This is our thermal sensor that runs back. So as we need to replace the combustion fan, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this shield. So this is a protective shield right here. We're going to grab that same 10 millimeter. And it just has 2 bolts that hold in this little shield from the bottom side. I'm just going to loosen those up. And we'll make sure that we keep those separate from the other bolts. So some of the earlier Davy Crockett models will not have this shield. This is something that they've recently added over the past couple of years. And again, just kind of provides a guard, so to say, from the fan, especially if I have this sitting directly on the ground while I'm grilling. So I'm just kind of set that off to the side for now. And now we've exposed our combustion fan. So our combustion fan sits right here, just underneath the auger shaft. So one of the things that I want to do first is I want to disconnect the wires for the combustion fan that go into this Molex, or the wire harness right here. So these are basically bullet connectors. I find that it is very helpful to just grab them with pliers and just separate them, pull them apart. So we have a black to black, and then we have a red to red. So pretty simple as we're putting the new replacement fan in there. So now the wires for that combustion fan are loose. In another video, I'm going to show you a replacement of the igniter right here, and it actually is really helpful to replace the combustion fan, or at least pull the combustion fan off when we need to replace the igniter. Because as we're feeding that wire through to the burn pot, as this opens up, it allows a nice access to that cavity to feed that wire back through and to run it through the plastic plug right here. But we'll cover that in a separate video. And for now, we just want to focus on this combustion fan. So now that I have the protective grate off and I have the wires disconnected, I'm going to use my #1 Phillips with a long shaft. And so basically, the combustion fan has 4 Phillips screws that hold it in. So I have to stick the screwdriver through the small hole to be able to access that screw properly. So I'm just going to loosen it and try not to lose the bolts as you go. And I'm going to slide the grill a little bit forward here on the cart, so it gives me easier access to that back one. So again, a little cart like this can be super helpful as you need to do any kind of service or maintenance. So I got those 2 on that side, just grabbing the final 2 over here. Flathead might actually work a little bit better because the actual screw size here is a #2 Phillips, so the #1 is small and kind of tends to strip a little bit inside that bolt. However, if I had a small flathead, that might actually do a little bit better of a job for me. But it's all about the size of the shaft being able to fit through that first hole. All right, and our last screw is out. So this is what our combustion fan looks like. So pretty simple brushless DC motor that's right here, but this is the combustion fan. So this is what's providing air to the fire. So should you start noticing elongated ignition or weak ignition within the unit and everything's cleaned out in the fire pot, or maybe you're starting to notice more of a sooty type of a smoke, a lazier flame that's in there, there's a potential that this fan has gotten weak or it's not running at proper RPMs. Generally speaking, these fans are pretty solid. However, in the event of a failure or in the event of an issue where we don't feel like it's quite working correctly, that is how we pull out this fan. Like I said, once this is out, does make things really easy to reach my hand in this channel. So again, if I need to replace the igniter, it's really helpful to have this fan out first. So I'm going to go ahead and put the fan back in there for you, just so you can see that process. So the part with the ladle right here is up. That is going to mount up in there. Again, our wire feeds that come back, we want those as close to the harness as possible. So those will be on the right side as I'm looking at the grill, and that's proper mount for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put one of the screws up in there like that, just so I can start feeding that in. And I'm just going to start getting it threaded so it's on there while I get the other ones in place. You can thread them a little bit by hand first. There we go. And over to the other side. Same thing. Just like that. We'll grab our last one. And no need to over tighten or crank these down. It's just needs to be a snug fit. So now that we've got all four in, just gonna snug those up, just like that, just like that. And the last one, just like that. So now that I have the fan back in, I can go ahead and connect the wiring. And if I didn't mention this in the beginning, it is really important to obviously have the grill unplugged. So whether I'm running it to a traditional 110 outlet or whether I have it going to DC, it's important that we have the power supply removed before we ever are doing anything back here with the electrical. So now I'm ready just to re-plug in the wires from the combustion fan into the receiving wires that are in the wire harness here. So like I mentioned, when I took them off, these are color coded, so black to black. I'm just going to get them started, red to red. And then I'm going to grab my pliers again, just to ensure that I have a perfect connection within there. Give them a nice little push together like that. Just like that. A lot of times with bullet connectors, you'll hear them kind of clip in. So when they're nice and secure, I usually give a little tug just to make sure everything is good there. So everything seems pretty solid. So now at this point I can go ahead and I can put back on the shield. So I'm just going to kind of line that up. We just have 2 bolts. I'll hold this guy on there. Same thing here, you don't need to over tighten this. Again, it's just a protective shield. Just snug. Just like that. Now we can go ahead and put the hopper back on. Now the most important thing that I'm going to say for the hopper is, one, we want to be careful of this wire, our thermal sensor wire. So I actually want to have that wrapping across the other side of the motor right here, like that. It's going to be helpful for us as we place this back on. And the other thing that we want to pay attention to is the gasket right here that this is seating in. So that gasket is really important to stay in place. It's fragile. It's made out of a lyotherm material, kind of a fire-rated material gasket. So we do want to be careful and make sure that that gasket is staying in proper place. And now that I think about this thermal probe wire, I am thinking that it actually needs to kind of wrap along that side because the hopper has to fit right over the throat right here. So let's just start getting the hopper put on and then we can make our adjustments as needed. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to get it right to about this point. And then I got to go ahead and again put on the wires for the control board. So I have my one plug right here for the thermal sensor, which will snap in. So again, I highly recommend that you do the control board separately, because doing it from this position can be much more difficult. And I've done this a few times, so I'm a little more well versed with it, but still it can be a little bit complicated getting everything in place. Now that I have that thermal sensor wire on there, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to connect the two wires that went to the 12 volt outlet right over here. So again, I just have one bullet, one spade, and I'm just going to make sure that's pushed down all the way nice and tight. Same thing with the spade. Push down all the way nice and tight. And now I have to connect this 8-pin Molex back here to the board. So again, it's tricky because we don't have a ton of room right here. And that's why I recommend taking the board out separately. Alright, so that's all the way on there. Again, the Molex is just a pressed fit. But we want to make sure that it's all the way snugged up and in place. So now that we have our wires back connected, I go ahead and start getting this hopper seated properly. And I'm actually going to open the hopper lid. In fact, for right now, I'll take the hopper lid off. And that'll allow me to make sure that this thermal wire isn't in the way, and then that gasket is seating properly. So the edges of the hopper are going to go over the edges there. And I do see that thermal wire. We're going to kind of slide that to the side so I'm able to get that hopper seated down. So now as I'm looking inside the hopper, I'm not pinching or restricting that wire at all. I can see that the gasket is in place, and my holes over here are lined up. So we'll go ahead and we'll just reattach the hopper here. Let's get that started. And oh, it wants to give me a little bit of complication there, so we'll see if we can get it started a little bit by hand. There we go. All right. Again, to get the bottom one, you have to raise up the leg here just a little bit. Start getting that threaded. Just like that. Before I get those fully tightened up, I'm just going to start to get the ones on the other side set. Right, and left. Now we can go ahead and snug these down. And with the bolts for the hopper, I do give them a pretty decent tightening. Again, we are oftentimes lifting by the hopper, we're loading this thing up with pellets. We really want to make sure that the hopper is nice and secure. So you'll see me tightening this up. Yep, I give it a nice little crank there. Our final bolt. Nice and tight. So everything is now on there. I'm noticing here that a couple of our wires are sticking out of the protection screen, so I definitely want to make sure that those are in there. We don't want to have any pinched wires here. Okay, so that's good. And just go ahead and put the hopper back on. Yeah, I think I may have to actually pull this off again to be able to get the lid on. So we just need to slide the hopper a little bit so we can get the lid on there. Otherwise, yeah, that lid just hooks right into the little loops right here. So we'll get that in place. I won't waste your time getting that on. That's pretty straightforward. But that is the replacement of the combustion fan in a GMG Davy Crockett. Both the Daniel Boone and the Jim Bowie are very similar to this. But thanks for joining us for the video. Questions, comments, concerns, leave us a comment here on the video. Always happy to help make sure that you're up and running at 100%. And we do offer all the parts and all the accessories for the Davy Crockett, and we guarantee the best prices out there. So feel free to check out pellethead.com or the link that's in this video to take a look at some of the different parts and accessories that we have for the Davy Crockett. So thanks so much for joining us today for another session of Pellet Tech 101.